Imagine landing a trophy property that cash flows from day one. Yes, you heard me right. This kind of deal is the stuff dreams are made of because the typical trophy property does not cash flow immediately because the price is so high. But our student Darryl right here made it happen. You have to watch this video. Not only does this 12-unit multifamily property boast top-tier aesthetics and fantastic location, it is also a financial powerhouse right out of the gate, cash flowing immediately with room to grow. So in this video, Darryl's going to share his story, okay? How he found this rare gem, and of course it was off market. This is where the best deals are. He'll also share with you the strategy he used to secure the deal, and how he did it is a lesson in itself. You must watch the video. And number three, he'll share with you the amazing bank financing that he obtained, and this is why and how the property cash flows so well. You have to see how he did that. And lastly, he'll share with you his plans to take this property to the next level. Here's a hint. There's a buildable lot next door that he owns that's already zoned for multifamily that can triple his property in size. So let's get started. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Darryl to the show. Click subscribe and add alerts so you can get more easy to understand commercial and multifamily wisdom. Welcome everybody. Hey, I have a special guest here. His name is Darryl, one of our students, one of our prize students who stood the test of time and was so persistent on this deal. And he's here to share the entire story. Thank you for joining us today, Darryl.
Thank you for having me, Peter. Glad to be here.
All right, you are welcome. Let's jump straight into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've been in multi-family real estate investing here for just over a year. Um, my 9 to 5 job is I'm an IT consultant. I have my own IT consulting business, and I specialize in the financial sector. I've been doing that for about 20 plus years now, and I also have 2 kids and been married for about 15 years.
All right, awesome, awesome. Well, let's jump into your why, Darryl. Why commercial real estate? Why did you pick up the phone and call us and ask for help? What are some of the motivating factors behind your decision to need to buy commercial, particularly multifamily?
Yeah, that's a good question. I originally got into real estate investing about 9, 10 years ago when my family and I were living in the Philadelphia area, and had gotten into flipping single family homes. I quickly found out that the margins are very thin in that arena. My first property, I would say, broke even. My second flip deal, I actually ended up losing money on that one just because of a series of events involving contractors and delays, and just because of those things, the carrying costs pretty much wiped out my any profits that I would have made from that deal.
Mm.
So after that, I decided to kind of back away and reevaluate what I could potentially do in real estate. And I started looking at commercial properties, and that's how I found you on the internet. And I believe I signed up for your email updates for your videos. But I'm ashamed to say that I didn't actually go back and look at your emails for about 2 years. They were sitting in my inbox, and the reason for that is that was right before COVID hit,
Mm.
so got distracted with that, and then we had our second child during that period as well. So you could say I was a little preoccupied at that time.
I'd say.
Yeah, yeah. So couple years went by, and then my family and I relocated to Virginia, where I'm from originally, and things started to settle down a bit, and I went back to thinking about real estate investing. Went back into my inbox and found all of the emails that I'd gotten from you, and started watching your videos, did your online course as well, and just kind of binged on multifamily investing and liked what I saw and eventually signed up with you and your team.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Let's dive into the deals now. People love this. And as you know, you bought two properties with us. You bought a
Mhm.
smaller property. We can talk about that for a second. And then you bought your 12 unit. And that's where we want to focus on. I'll let you share.
Yes.
So share us, maybe start off with the 4 units. So we can kind of get that one out the way and get to the prize property.
Sure. Both of these properties, I came into contact with the sellers using your methods. I would say about a month or so after I signed on with you. So the return was really quick. Um, the 4 unit was an older gentleman who was retired. He lived about 30 minutes away from the property, and this was the last property. He had had multiple properties in the town where I live, and this was the last one that he had. He had sold off the rest of them because traveling. He also self managed, and traveling 30 minutes each way for for a leaky faucet was kind of getting old for him,
Yeah,
and he wanted to
yeah,
sell off this last 4 unit property and buy something closer to where he lived. Um, so he had identified he wanted to do a 1031 exchange, and he had identified the property that he wanted to exchange into. But the seller of that property had been slow in providing the financial information, and so that deal kind of dragged on for about I would say 8 months or so. And I think it was about 6 months after the initial contact with him, he was able to get all of the information that he needed for that 1031 exchange, and we were able to make the deal happen, and we finally closed on that deal. I believe it was a good 8 months or so after the initial contact.
got it, got it. Okay, thank
Mhm.
you for sharing that. And
Mhm.
let's talk about the larger property, the trophy property. So that
Yes.
has an amazing story of its own. So please share.
Yes, so that's a 12-unit property. The the sellers contacted me at about the same time as the seller of the 4 unit. Um, Almost a similar situation in terms of the sellers are in their 60s. They're self-employed. They have a consulting business. The wife had already retired, and the husband was still working, and he was managing the 12-unit property himself. The wife wanted him to give up that 12-unit property so that they can start enjoying their retirement. So she was the one who reached out to me and gave me some preliminary details about the property. This was, I believe, early March of last year. And she mentioned that she thinks that her husband would probably agree to sell the property for 1.4 million.
Mm,
So we set up a time when we could all talk, and so we had a conference call. They gave me a little more information about the property, where it was located. And it turns out the property is located not far from where I grew up originally. So I was very familiar with the area. Great area, great location. It's one of the areas of the city that people want to live in. So no questions at all about the location. Um, I got the financials from the owners and looked it over, and they were very upfront in the beginning that they had kept the rents lower than market
yeah,
because they won't put a priority on keeping good tenants as opposed to keeping up with the market rents. So early on in the deal, I had a good idea that um, the low income on the property could pose a challenge. So I got the financials, looked at the numbers, did some crunching of the numbers. I believe I even spoke to you at this point about the property, and I think we came to the conclusion that something like a master lease agreement would be a good alternative to conventional financing because of that income challenge. So at this point, I hadn't even seen the property yet. Um, yeah, I hadn't toured it, I should say. I hadn't driven past it. So I spoke to the owners. We talked about the challenges and that conventional financing was going to be a challenge, and they said that yes, they understood that. And so I brought up the master lease agreement option, and they just considered it for a few days, and then they came back to me and declined and said that they felt that a cash buyer, an all cash buyer, would be better for this property. So um, I said I understood, and I said, but I would stay in touch just to see how things were progressing. So I gave it about a month, and now we're into April, I think, of 2023. I got back to them and just to check in and said, "Hey, have you found a cash buyer for a property?" And they told me no, but if we're being honest, we haven't really been looking. So I said, "Okay, well, great. Let me make you an offer." So I, after crunching the numbers, I think I came out to um, about 1 point. No, I want to say I went back. I want to go back for a minute. I did tour the property at that point, so I did go in with the owner. Um, went through the property, saw some units, toured the exterior, and this is when I mentioned to you that this property was in unbelievable condition. Um, and sent you some pictures, and you saw it as well, and you agreed that this was an unusual property. Uh, so then I went back to the sellers and offered, I think it was 1.37 million, because that was a number that would have worked with conventional financing at the time. So they considered that briefly and then came back to me and said, no, that was a little low for them, and that they were going to pursue um, condo conversion. So they
Hmm.
were going to look
I
at
remember that.
converting.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, they were gonna look at converting the units to condos and then selling them off individually. So, um, kinda left it at that for a little while. I would check in periodically, to see how things were going, and they were still looking at the condo conversion. So, by this time, we're into the summer of 2023. I'm busy working on the other deal now, so, kinda left the 12 unit on the table for a little while. But in the meantime, I'm still calling many, many lenders just to see if there's a way to make this deal work. And honestly, I spoke to dozens of lenders in the process of trying to get this deal to work. And up until that point, there was just nothing that could be done because of the income situation of the property. So eventually, they contacted me in September of last year, reached out and asked if I was still interested in the property. And I told them yes, but I was busy trying to close another deal. And so they said, that not a problem. We're not in a hurry. Just get back to us once you're done. So I closed the deal on the 4 unit, and then got back to working on the 12 unit. Um, and also the husband mentioned that after evaluating the property again, he felt that 1.5 million was a fair price for the property. So the wife had mentioned 1.4, and then by September, the husband had settled on 1.5. He emphasized that that price was not going to be negotiable, but he did justify it by saying, I think this price is very fair because of the development potential of the property. And so what we haven't discussed about the property yet is that it sits on 2.8 acres of land. It was originally supposed to be 3 identical buildings, but only one of them was built. So the current or the previous owner had looked at potentially developing the rest of that land with either townhouses or additional apartment buildings. but he said that at his age, he didn't want to take on that kind of a project. He just didn't want to devote the time to it. So at that point,
Oh, and then also,
that
Darryl,
made
I
fun.
believe that
Yes,
that plot of land off to the side of your apartment building is zoned R4, right? So zoned to
yes,
build more apartments, right? So
correct.
yours is a 12 unit, and you have space to build two more 12-unit apartment buildings. Is that right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So the existing property probably takes up about 0.75, 0.8 acres of the
Hmm.
2.8 acre land. So
Hmm.
there's another 2 acres that can be used for development.
Yeah.
Um, so his um, his offer, not offer, but 1.5 selling price made financing the deal even more difficult. Because it wouldn't finance at 1.4. So it's definitely not going to finance at 1.5. So um, you and I discussed the deal multiple times, and then we decided to approach him with some seller financing options. And so I gave him two options for seller financing at his 1.5 million asking price. And these options would have worked, and the property would have cash flowed. And so the first option was with him carrying the first mortgage, and then the second option was with him carrying a second mortgage.
Hmm.
So he thought about that for a little while, and then came back and said that he didn't want to do any type of seller financing. And the reason being was he had a very strong emotional attachment to the property. He considered it
Yes.
his baby.
Yeah.
He was originally in the hotel industry, and he he learned how to manage properties, how to take care of his properties. And so when he became a real estate investor, he took that mentality into managing his own real estate investments. He had close relationships with his tenants, and he made sure that no maintenance issues went unattended. He made sure he stayed on top of things. He made his
Yeah.
yeah, took care of his capital improvements well ahead of schedule. So
Yeah.
when he
Oh, and
sold the
Darryl, I,
property,
I
yeah,
recall, excuse me, I recall a
mhm,
couple of pictures you sent me where the insides even look like a hotel.
yes, yes, the uh,
Yeah.
the entrance, the main entrance is kind of has a grand hotel type of
Mm-hmm.
feel to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so all
No.
that to say, he did not want to have anything to do with the property after he sold
Yeah.
it, just because of that emotional attachment.
Yeah.
So I thought the deal was potentially dead at that point. I have to admit,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't give up on it completely, but I found a lender who was willing to take a look at the deal and had great terms. And the the way that I found this lender was nothing short of a miracle, I would say. Uh, I had made some contacts when I first started working with you and your team, and you had suggested making contacts with local commercial real estate agents to get leads. So I had done just that, and this one particular agent had sent me a commercial office park to look at. The numbers didn't work out for that office park, but ever so often I would drive by, and I would just have a look at it to see what the occupancy looked like, and just it just paid I just paid attention to it because it was on my radar. So one day I was driving by, and I was looking at the sign out front, and there was a sign for a bank that I had never heard of before, and there was a phone number there for the bank as well. So I ended up calling this bank, and it was a small local bank from 3 counties over from where I live. I'd never heard of it before. Called the bank, and got it was just a lending office, actually, in our town. It wasn't even a full branch, and spoke to the commercial lending officer in that office, And I told him how I found out about his bank, and he had a great laugh about it because it turns out they were no longer located in that office park. They had moved 2 years prior, but they had never taken the sign down.
Oh,
So,
wow.
it was just a miracle that I found these guys, and we started talking. And I was telling him the challenges of the deal and um, the income situation, and he said this sounds pretty interesting, and it's something that we could potentially finance. So I reached out to the owners, to the sellers, and told them that I have a potential lender who could finance this deal at their selling price. This was, I think, November. I think we were into November, early December of last year.
Mm,
So the seller said, hey, since we're getting so close to the holidays, let's pick this up after the first of the year.
yeah, I
So
remember that conversation
yeah,
too.
yes. So, in the meantime, I continued speaking with this lender. He was crunching the numbers and said, I think we can do this deal. In the meantime, I also decided to take on a partner with this particular deal. Um, a friend of mine that I had met in our church, who was also a real estate investor. We had been just talking about real estate in general over the past year or so, and sometime prior, he had mentioned, "Hey, if you ever come across a deal where you want a partner, let me know." Um, and so at this point, I was thinking, maybe I would like to take on a partner with this deal, and that would free up some of my cash for another deal potentially. So my partner came on board, and that was a great addition because he has a banking background in commercial lending. So he brought a lot of
Nice.
knowledge to the table. So we get into January of this year. Um, we go back to the seller, tell him we have a lender, and that we'd like to get a property under contract. Um, he's somewhat skeptical that the deal is actually going to happen, but he says, "Okay, I will only put the deal under contract if you come back with a commitment letter from your lender." So at that point, my partner and I, we go back to our lender, and we basically go through like the entire approval process, prior to having this property under contract. Um, so that takes about a month and a half. Um, we get the pre-approval letter, take it back to the seller. There's a little bit of back and forth with the sales contract, and we finally get the property under contract at 1.5 million.
Okay, and that was about 12 months from the day you met the seller, right? Until
Yes,
getting under
yes,
contract. So an entire year. And
the
let me
entire
just say
year.
this. Let me just say this, everyone out there, this only happens when you do off-market deals. If this was real estate agent control, this would have happened. Darryl would have
Yes,
never gotten you would never gotten this close to the seller. You would never gotten this much time, and you wouldn't have gotten such a good price
right.
because of the deal dynamics. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah,
And then we got the approval, and I was amazed, Darryl, that you were able to get 80% LTV, 20% down on a commercial property on a 12 unit. That's
yes,
amazing. And your rate was below 7%. Another amazing thing. Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So it turns out, yes, this lender had the best terms of any of the lenders that I spoke to, and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
And that's what caused it the cash flow. It was the terms, right?
Mhm.
And also too, this deal, day one, you also have room to raise the rents as well, right?
Correct. So the rents were anywhere from 20 to 30% under market.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
so you can see why it was so difficult to finance. From day one, we went in and decided to raise the rents incrementally. So we started with 3 tenants, and we're doing 3 tenants each quarter, which was a good recommendation from your team. Um, and the rationale behind that is so that we don't have all of the leases coming due at the same time and potentially having a lot of turnover at the same time.
Yep.
So we're getting into our second group of rent increases right now, and then yeah, we're just gonna keep going from there.
Okay, great. And I recall the time you and I met when you did your inspection, right? And of course,
Hmm.
I review inspections almost every week from our students that are under
Hmm.
contract. And you were correct. There were some things, the property wasn't perfect, but I couldn't find anything that was wrong, really, right? Everything looked pretty good. I was amazed
Right.
for a property of that age. I was quite amazed how the utilities, the systems, the windows, the parking lot, the siding, everything was like the units were like in great shape.
Yes. Yes. That was a pleasant surprise. You never know what's going to be found in an
Hmm.
inspection. Um, and when we got that inspection report back, we were incredibly pleased. Uh, there was,
That's
there
so
were a few
rare.
cosmetic things. Yeah.
Yeah, that is so rare. Another
Hmm.
thing before I forget, Daryl, is I recall you and I having a conversation about this seller where he was so
Hmm.
attached to the property, and to you and your wife, and you guys all met, um, that he would only sell to you. Is that
Hmm.
right? If he were to let it go, is only to Daryl, right? Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. He had had some bad experiences with property managers before. He had tried property managers, and that's how he resorted to managing the property himself. Um, and because of his care for his tenants and for the property, he mentioned that he only wanted to sell it to someone he knew was going to take as good of care of the property as he did. Um, and there was a lot of time invested with getting to know him and his wife. We had a number of phone calls. We had a lot of meetings in person, over coffee, over lunch. So it was really a lot of personal relationship there that helped to get the deal done. And that's a big part of real estate investing is investing the time to get to know people, and it really does pay off. And I can honestly say, I've made two new friends uh, from those sellers, just from getting to know them
Yeah.
and getting acquainted.
Yeah. It reminds me of this quote. Good things take time, but great things take a little longer.
That's very true in this case. Yeah.
Yeah, it sure is. It sure is. All right. Let's see. The other thing is now that you have these two deals under your belt that you're
Mhm.
self-managing, right? And
Yes.
um, and the 12 unit, you told him that maybe it was condition of buying it if you'd have self-managed because of his bad experience with their property managers, right?
Mhm.
So we have these two belts. So what's next? What are your plans? I know we have this. Property to the side, but what's next for Daryl in terms of your commercial real estate investing?
So yes, so my partner and I on this deal, we're looking at how to best leverage that land in order to um, to maximize the potential. So we're going to have a feasibility study done to
Hmm.
to figure out whether we should subdivide the land and sell it off, or potentially partner with a developer and have it developed ourselves. We're also looking at what we could do with it and how we could grow our real estate business with additional properties. And we had a great offsite earlier this week, and went up in the mountains, did some hiking, and then we had a meeting afterwards, and we came up with a great plan moving forward. So, as I mentioned, my partner has a great financial background
Awesome.
and banking background, and I've been able to bring the deals to the table. So with our combined teamwork, I think sky's the limit. So we're looking forward
Awesome.
to our future in real estate investing.
That's great. That's great. And lastly, Daryl, our channel here, what we do at Commercial Property Advisors, we help people like yourselves, right?
Hmm.
Novices, beginners, intermediates, take them to the next level. Do you have any advice, one or two bits of advice for the person wanting to do what you just did?
Yeah, certainly. So I would say with my first 2 deals, the one thing that jumped out was to just remain persistent.
Mm,
If a deal looks
good.
good, don't give up on it. Um, there were so many challenges with the first deal, the 4 unit. There were a couple of challenges, but with this 12 unit, there were just it just seemed like there was one challenge after the next.
Yeah.
But the numbers continuously, looked good. The growth potential of the property was looked great. So I did not want to give up on it, and just kept after it, and eventually the deals worked out. The second thing I would say is to put together a great team, and you guys were essential to getting these deals done. You the expertise and the knowledge that you have, both from developing your own deals as well as all of the deals that you've worked on with your students. You have a wealth of knowledge that I could not acquire in a lifetime. And so there's probably very few scenarios that I could bring to you that you haven't seen at least once, either in your own personal deals or with your students. So yeah, just having a knowledgeable team is tremendous, and having that knowledge available to me helped get these 2 deals closed.
Every successful commercial real estate investor has a mentor. Get mentored by me and my team by applying to be our next protege. Click the top corner. Awesome, awesome. And Darryl, I appreciate your patience and your persistence and your tenacity, right? This business
Mm,
requires all three if you want to be successful, right? And you
definitely.
exhibited all three. Can you imagine on your 12 unit, it was probably a 17-month span of time, right, between meeting the seller and actually closing and taking control? About 17 months,
Yes.
right? Yeah, so
Yes.
it's the power of relationships and nurturing your relationships, having dinner with them, multiple visits, him getting to know you, becoming friends. That's how great deals are done. So
Yes.
congratulations.
Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome. All right, Darryl. Again, thank you for spending your time. I can see you're away on business, so I appreciate you taking time out of your day to share such an inspiring story with all of us.
My pleasure, Peter. Thanks again.
All right, you take care. I'm Peter Harris, your commercial property advisor. Thank you for being with us.